This your boy Big Guy Journey back with another episode of Fat, Broke, and Single. Again, you said Big Guy Journey. You see the hat. I mean, I know you're wondering why I got a blazer on and the hat. The hat is for advertisement, of course. I need you to see the gear. The Big Guy Journey. You see that? You know you see it. But look, I'm going to get real serious because I got a special guest here. I've been telling y'all I got this gentleman coming through, and his name is the Intentional Millionaire. I'm going to start calling him the Money Man. We could call him Roy. I mean, he's probably got some other names, but I'm going to let him just tell you a little bit about him. But the one thing that I like about this gentleman, because I'm not a person that is very hell-bent on titles. You know what I mean? I don't really care if a person is a millionaire. I don't really care if a person is wealthy. I don't really care what they have. I really judge people on integrity. And ever since the minute I've met this gentleman, he has been a man of integrity, somebody of morals, and somebody that's always willing to reach out and help. And in fact, he hit me up like, Big Guy, what's up, man? Let's do something. You know what I mean? Let me help you. Let me help you. And so I just wanted this, before I kind of go in and tell a little bit about what we're talking about, I wanted to say welcome to the Intentional Millionaire. And man, the floor is yours to say whatever you please. Whatever you want to say.
All right. First, I want to thank you, Big Guy Journey, for allowing me to come on your platform. I had a chance to kind of, checked out your channel. I like some of the things that you was doing. I like your discipline and your dedication, great personality. And the main thing is, I know you align with kind of where I align at is you have great character. And for me, that's what it's really about. Nothing comes more than three things. The most three important things to me is character, leadership, and persistency. Because if you had those three things, everything else will fall into place. Now, that's not saying that for me, I always had character. I was born and raised with character. But my leadership was a little area I had to work on because you had different levels to leadership, and I may understand that first layer, but I didn't understand the other layers. But then persistency, that was something that came natural and easy because I didn't have much growing up. I didn't grow up in the silver spoon type situation. So persistent was just means that I continued to push through till I got some type of result that I was looking for. So with that being said, that's kind of really what I really liked about, when I had the opportunity to reach out to Big Guy Journey. And just to kind of give a little bit about myself, I'm 42. I'm the youngest of five. I'm the first one to actually go to, went to school, went to college. And the thing about it for me was growing up, I can remember being 5 to 6 years old. And I remember getting put out. I remember coming home, doing pre-K, and seeing our stuff outside. And that wasn't the best feeling. Now, can I tell you everything that happened in between? No, I can't. That's the only thing I can remember. I can remember coming home and seeing our stuff outside. And I knew at that point, I didn't know, but later on, I think it created a mental stamp in my head that I said that when I get older, I would never want my family and myself to be in that type situation. So with that being said, my dad was always in the house. He came home every night. He worked he worked 5 days a week like anybody else. But the thing about my dad was, and it's not a bad thing, but he liked to go out to what I like to say the bootlegger house. And doing that, he would take most of the money, do just enough in the household with my mom and us. But then he would take the rest of the money and take it out in the streets.
Yeah.
And he had a name as, they call him Mustache because he had a mustache. My dad was kind of short with chink eyes. Well, I guess you can't say that, but my dad was kind of short and he had slanted eyes. But one of the things about him was he was very well respected wherever he went at because he was always the same. He was always genuine. And I can say that that's what one of the key things that I picked up from my mom and dad was character and being genuine. One thing about him, regardless of what he done in the household, it was so many good things that I did learn from him. And I say the key thing was, though, he was very genuine, but he was very direct. People that out in the neighborhood that he did not like, they knew that he did not like them because he would tell them. Okay. So I realized very early on, I thought as a man, you're supposed to be upfront and honest with another man. So that's just kind of what I gravitated to. But with that being said, that's kind of a little bit of my backstory on you, just kind of a little bit who I am, where I grew up. And then I decided to go to school just to kind of fast forward to the future. I went to school. My background is electrical engineering. I work currently as a GPS engineer, but I also have assets across both real estate and investments. And I have a couple collectibles, which is some baseball cards, basketball cards. But with that all being said,
hey, this
very. Oh,
no, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. With all that being said, though, one of the key things that I gravitated to very early on was two things that I want to point out. When I was in middle school, I used to have a friend that was he was Caucasian, and he used to tell me about a lot of the answers to most Black people problems in books. So because he stated that, I decided that I gave up TV and I decided to read. Because to me, I took that personal, and that set the trajectory for a lot of kind of where I'm at today. I gave up TV. I stopped watching TV around the Martin Show era, probably around about late 96, 95, 96. And since then, it's been my head down and just been focusing on just kind of growing and building and learning myself.
That's awesome. Man, you just gave so much, and we're going to touch on all of it. But I got to go back to, we got a lot of similarities as far as how we grew up. And I believe many of us do, especially when it comes to us as Black people. You know what I mean? We've got put out before. I remember seeing our stuff on the corner with the sheriff out there. I know that we came up as poor, but the one thing that we have absolutely something that's absolutely different is that you actually knew your father, and I didn't have my father. Mm-hmm. And I know you kind of touched on your father, on who he was, and the things that he did as far as like going over to the bootlegger and stuff like that. But like in a very short answer, not in a short answer, but in a very short way, like, can you kind of like tell me what you think the difference in having your father there actually meant to you or did for you?
I could say it in one word. It was structure.
Boom.
He provided structure. And
we need structure. We absolutely need structure. So, okay. So that's one word. All right. So look, and so, okay. So this is the thing. All right. When I even had the vision of us doing something together, I was kind of thinking this grand, like, title. And in fact, I still haven't come up with the title yet. But the one thing that I want to highlight for the people is this. I am 41. He is 42. We both grew up in similar ways. I don't know if he went to the streets, but I was actually in the streets. I did a lot of things that I shouldn't have done. Again, you see, one of the differences is that I didn't have a father. He did have a father. And one of the things I told him is I touched a lot of money in my life, but here it is today that he is a millionaire and I am not. And I want you all to really hear what we're going to talk about and where we're going to go with this interview, because the whole title of my podcast is Fat, Broke, and Single. And this if you ever listen to it before you understand what fat is already, you're going to understand what broke is, because broke to me isn't only about money. Broke is more about brokenness, and like you don't have the will, or the desire to move forward and to be anything. It's kind of like some of those guys that you ever come to a place where you saw them and they were just drinking 40s and they were doing one thing, and then 5 years later they were still doing that same thing. That to me is broke. Broke is a mental condition. And I actually suffered from brokenness, but it wasn't because that. And you have to go back and listen to podcasts too in order to understand what that is, because I don't look at it only as money. And so here it is that I'm not broke, but I am not a millionaire. I'm not where I need to be. And for me, as a 40-year-old man, I would much rather be in a place of having my wealth already taken care of. And this gentleman has done that. And so one of the things I want you to talk about, Intentional Millionaire, is, and I kind of got an idea because I kind of asked you this, but where did you start? I mean, we know you started with reading books and stuff like that, but what age did you start actually planning? Because I believe that the reason why the majority of us is not where you are is because of lack of preparation, is because lack of planning. I told my cousin this the other day. It doesn't matter how much money you make and how much money you touch. If you don't plan, you're just pretty much spinning your wheels. You're not going to get to that place of wealth or riches, because you're just going to be spending at the same time. And so kind of talk about that. Where did you start? When did you start? And was planning a big part of you getting to where you are today?
Yes, it was all planned. So I would say I can't remember the age, but we'll go back to the year and I kind of do the math. But my breakthrough started at the very end of 2005, and at the very end of 2005, and then in 2006 is when I know that it was the year that I really just made a decision that I was going to get totally out of debt. And at that time, I was $21,000 in debt. That included one credit card, my car payment, my car loan, and a furniture bill me and my mom had. And during that time, I knew that I was going to get out of debt. And once I heard the phrase and I read in the book, and I can tell you the book, it was Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And one of the key things in that book was you got to reprogram your thinking, because all the trauma that happened up until that point is normally during your childhood, and it programs you probably improper about money. That was the book that really changed my life for me. Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. And one of the things was I looked at and I thought about my life, and I looked at the fact that, we grew up in the hood. We always had, most of the time, but it was times, like us not only getting put out, but I remember the lights getting cut off. I remember the gas getting cut off, just all of those different things. So I told myself that in 2006, I was going to get totally debt free. So it took me 2.5 years to do that. But in the process of getting totally debt free, I also told myself that I wasn't going to go back in. On top of, why do I need to have a car payment? Why not just do, and I heard a phrase, always do different than what the mass is doing, and you'll get different results and better results. So for me, I had a mindset, once I paid off all my debt in 2.5 years, then I told myself, okay, I paid my car off, but why go out and upgrade cars? Why not just take that same car payment and pay it in my account versus the car company account?
Yeah.
And that was the game changer for me, because that was the first time I ever seen $5,000 in my account. So, and then after that, it was kind of like, man, if I can do this, now what if I take all the pay raises and the extra money? Because I always did try to do extra stuff because I always try to do extra stuff because when I started really getting aggressive and working and I had got a promotion, I told myself I won't gonna spend the promotion money. I just gonna add it to the pot. And that's kind of how it started for me.
All planned. Did y'all hear that though? Because he said that he had a car, he paid off the car, and he said, "How about this? Put this money away." But one of the things you didn't say, and I heard you say this, is that your car. I think I heard it on one of your videos. You said you had a car that had 400,000 miles on it.
That's the same car that I paid off.
I mean, the reason why this is so amazing to me, man, is because this is what people think about wealthy people, or they think about somebody who has $1 million, right? They think about like somebody that's a celebrity, somebody who actually is always flossing, who has all of these jewels and who has all of this flash, right? Sort of just like the dope boys and stuff like that, that we used to see model back in the hood. But the way that I understand it from you is that I could sacrifice today to have more of what I want in my future. And so while you have this car that's 400,000 miles, and I'm sure you got different cars now, but that's the picture that most people don't see. And so most people are trying to keep up with a certain standard of look while you kind of got your head down working and stacking and putting into different investments and stuff like that to grow and boom. Because I mean, you just said, back then you talking about that was your first time seeing $5,000 in your account. And here it is today. You have $1 million worth of assets. That's a whole different kind of journey than what most people think about when they think about millionaires. Yeah,
because most people think, and like I stated in the book, because most people think it's normally inherited, or you got to be a celebrity, rapper, entertainer, because that's what that's kind of what, even for myself, that's. I didn't know and if we don't know nobody that can allow us to elevate how we perceive certain things, then the challenge I had was because I started reading books, and I learned how to be able to separate what I was doing from what everybody else was doing. Yeah. So I knew that, going back to my phrase of, do different than what the masses is doing so you can get different results. Well, all my friends and my homeboys was doing what everybody else was doing, so I knew I had to do the opposite of that. But here's the thing: the best and beautiful thing out of doing that was I was able to identify my true friends. Yeah, because my true friends allowed me to continue to do opposite of what they was doing, and show me the respect. Yes. And then it got to a point where when they needed help, I would kind of help them out with certain things. And then that's how you build a loyalty group of people that's willing to fight for you. And they don't want to see nothing happen to you. That's the truth. Yeah. And as men, this is what I say, I know for me, this is what I learned on the fly. I didn't have a lot of resources. Now I will say on the other side of that, I did have challenges because it was me and my mom at the time, and I wasn't making as much money, but I started to learn how to do other things outside of the 9-to-5 to make money. Yeah. And then that's when I learned, okay, so I went one step further. I said, okay, so if I can do this outside of my 9-to-5 and make money, so now what is another way I can do this on another level? And that's when I really got into the investments. Yeah. And then I had started my Roth IRA. But I started a Roth IRA. I didn't fully understand it at the time, but I just knew that when they said no taxes, and I knew as a young person working, when I look at my paycheck, I don't care how much overtime I work. It seemed like all of it was going to overtime. So,
You know?
so I was like, some had to give somewhere. And then I just continued to read. And then I came across a person. And he mentioned that it's not about what you make that was important. It's what you keep. And it's for a long time, I had a hard time deciphering what does that really mean?
Yeah.
You know, because sometimes you hear phrases, but you don't really know what it means. Yep. So I continued to study and learn and things like that. And then I really understood that what that meant was if a person make, 20,000, 50,000 or 200,000, they still got the same problem. They got to pay taxes. The difference is the person that make 200,000 is in a higher tax bracket. So the challenge is how can you be in 200,000 but get your tax bracket lower? And my answer to that was I found that you had to have a business that's profitable, and that's how you do it. Because then I researched. I took a class in taxes because I just wanted to know. See, for me, I was always in the mindset because I didn't have anything. So I figured, won't nobody gonna come tell me? Won't nobody gonna come share
Right.
it? So I had to go out and find answers. Now, here's the other side of that. Family disagreed. Family talked about me. Jealousy, just all types of stuff.
Yeah.
But the only champion I had in my corner at the time, because I didn't tell you when I graduated high school, since I was the youngest, my dad said I graduated the next day. He said he was going to get a loaf of bread. He never came back to the house. Okay. So for about 2 weeks, we didn't know if he was dead. We didn't know anything but he ended up moving. Supposedly he had a side chick. And he ended up moving into another city, and somebody had told us they saw him because he had hit the lottery for $5,500. But when I found out where he was at, I was the first out of the 5. I went over and spoke to him, and I like that never happened. Yeah. And I tell you what that done for me now that I look back, that allowed me to always operate at kindness and peace.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I had one of my second to the oldest brothers. He was resentful a little bit from it, and for a while it took like maybe almost 2 years before he has eventually, wanted to go see him.
And that resentment is stopping you from moving forward.
Mm-hmm. So, but with that being said, but from that, I say that so after I decided to start the Roth IRA, then I heard that the next thing that you can do to really truly offset taxes, you need to be in real estate.
So you got in real estate.
And then I researched all the guidance of the IRA, and I said, well, how am I getting into real estate? I don't have no capital. And then I read where they said that you can buy your first home and you can take $10,000 out your IRA and there's no tax penalty. And anytime I heard anything that said no tax, I was in. Listen, I ain't understand it all, but I just knew anytime I heard no taxes, I knew I was in. But you got to keep in mind too, I was a little bit familiar at that point because I did take the tax class at Jackson Hewitt. Yeah. I paid like $60 at the time. It was maybe $60, $55, $60 to take the class because I just wanted to have some level of insight. So whatever I could afford or go do to try to grow what I was doing, that's what I done. But here's the other side of that. I built a relationship with the branch head manager, which she still do my taxes. And I have complicated tax return and she do it, and I probably paid cheaper than most people would think. Okay.
Man, you just stood up here and made it look so easy though.
But it wasn't easy.
I know it's not. I know it's not, but you made it look easy. But listen, the thing about it is it's easier than what most people realize though. And this is what I mean. Most people can't fathom doing what you did.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? And you just gave like a blueprint. Like, I mean, when people hear IRAs and all of that stuff, a lot of it just go way over your head. You know what I'm saying? The Roths, all of that. I mean, it's because these things are so foreign to us in our community that is just like is in one ear and out the other. But the reason why I said you make it seem easy, and it is easier than what you think, is because all you did is sit down and got the information. You wanted to know and you got it. You wanted to know, you went and took a test. You wanted to know, and once you got it, you ran with it. They say the $10,000 or so, okay, well, I'm going to use it here. But because of your knowledge, it made it easier for you to move forward. Most people don't move forward because they just don't have the knowledge. You get what I'm saying? I mean, and so you already gave the tip on reading.
I tell you, but I tell you the secret for me that allowed me to do that. My secret was because when I was young, so my parents didn't go to church, but they always sent me and my brother that was a year older than me to church.
Okay.
And I never forget being in church. I don't remember a whole lot because I was younger, because I used to go to the Salvation Army and the bus used to come pick you up, and we used to go because I used to love getting the orange juice and the cookies in the morning. Okay. But my parents always made us go, and then if we didn't go, we would have got a beating. And if we tried to, fake like we were sick. But anyway, one of the things I do remember, I don't remember much, but for me, I guess because I just remember key phrases, and I remember the phrase was, God don't create no junk. So everybody that you come in contact with has something.
Yeah. And
I remember that. And I used that. I just used, I guess for me, I was always one. Well, because my mom said I was always quiet. Most people don't know I'm an introvert. So an introvert means I don't really like to talk. However, because I was an introvert at the time, I would listen very well.
Yeah.
So because I would listen very well, the things that was always seemed different to me or wasn't used to what I was used to hearing from my environment, it always stood out, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And because of that, I used to just kind of react to what stood out. And it wasn't easy because the most important thing that I learned was I had to look in the mirror and understand me. You know what helped that the most was when I was in relationship, had a girlfriend. Because, during the time when I had a girlfriend and it didn't work out or we would break up, I never turned the breakup to any type of rage or mad or anything like that. I took that to I just was going to go put my head down, go level up doing something.
Yeah.
So that was my way to cope with, the breakup or things like that. So after every relationship, in my mind was, ain't no need to cry about it. It just, let's just go out here and go level up and go do something. Go do something that I didn't know.
Yeah.
But the hardest part of that was I had to face who? Myself.
Yourself, yeah.
Because like today, I'm very down to earth. I'm very this, but back then I was very nonchalant. I was very quiet. I didn't really care about much because when you don't come from nothing, it ain't too many things that you really worry about. You're already at the bottom. That's just how I felt inside.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, I'm just being real. That's just how I felt inside.
Yeah.
So and here's the thing I always tell people, I may be an exception to the rule because I just focus on the most important person, which was me. And I learned from my parents because when I saw my dad do certain things, I just realized that it ain't for me to judge him. Well, how am I going to respond? And that's why I made it my business. I just was excited to see him because I was the youngest, and the other, my three brothers and my sister, they didn't go do it.
Yeah.
I was the one done it.
Yeah.
And that's really the truth. Now, was it challenging? Yes, because when all of this started, when I decided to get out of debt, you got to keep in mind, my dad had left. It was me and my mom. We were staying in the house, but we was renting. He had left. He was the breadwinner. My mom never made over $14,000 a year. Okay. Why? Because my dad married my mom when she was young. My dad was 20 years older than my mom. So with that being said, I didn't have the opportunity to do anything wrong or not right, was but only because when that happened, I told my mom it's gonna be okay. I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but I'm gonna figure it out.
Yeah. Man, that's awesome. And that kind of bring me to like one of the places that I wanted to go in here. Because if you look at the Intentional Millionaire, obviously you see that he's not fat. By the title, you see that he's not broke or broken. The one thing that we can say is that he is single. Yeah. And so he kind of just talked about a little bit about that relationship that he had back then, and the way that he looked at it. And so I kind of already get an understanding of how you think and where you are in the question that I'm going to ask you. Mm-hmm. I actually did a podcast today. I released it, and it was on singleness. And, we usually look at single as like, especially if you associate it with fat and broke, you look at it as kind of a negative. And one of the things I wanted to do is flip it on his head. I read a book a long time ago by Miles Monroe, Dr. Miles Monroe, and it was called Single, Separated, Married, and Life After Divorce, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the things that he talked about is that you should be seeking singleness. And he said even people that are married should be seeking singleness, right? Because singleness is, solo, separate, unique, whole. And so instead of trying to bring a 50% person into a relationship to another 50% person, you bring 100, right? And so that means that the man who is single is supposed to be focused on his purpose. That means the woman that is single should be focused on her purpose. And as I said in the video today, that if you're a woman and you want to be a wife, you should be learning how to be a wife properly, right? Mm-hmm. And so what's your thoughts on singleness? Because you are single, you have money, you have your health together. What is your outlook on single, especially how it relates to the way that I just kind of described it? What do you think about that?
I totally agree with Dr. Miles Monroe. Actually, I read the book you mentioned as well. Yeah, I really rock with Dr. Miles Monroe. But I say singleness is really the gauge. I think too many times, I'm gonna go back in time, then I'm gonna come back to that question because I want to give a little bit of backstory. So for me, when I realized my second year out of high school, the young lady that I was going with at the time, she was the woman that I wanted to marry at that time. And we had an agreement that she finished school, I finished school, then we get married because we want to make sure we took care of, a professional life, having a career, so forth and so on. Well, she finished before me. And when she finished before me, she wanted to jump the gun. I still had a year to go. And I told her, no, that's not the original agreement because I need to have a career and a future for myself because as a man, ain't nobody else going to do it for me. That, and the third. And she insisted. And I looked her in the face and I told her, I want to be with you. When I graduate, I'm going to marry you. But I am not going to jump the gun too soon and not finish out what I had planned, what the original plan was for us.
Yeah.
And she looked me in the face and said she wasn't willing to wait. And internally that tore me up. It's just like, I mean, it's not like I was, it's, I don't know, but with that being said, it was the best thing for me because at that time, my best friend can tell you that I said, that showed that you need more in a relationship than just love.
Yeah.
But because of that too, it helped set the pace for me because right after that happened, because I was kind of emotionally messed up, I didn't really look at relationships as I look at them today. So I was just single and just living life. But during that time, I really reflected on me, because when that type of blow happened, when you really rocking with somebody and a man really love a woman, it makes him question himself.
Yes, it does.
And because of that, so you asked earlier, so kind of like, so I made it sound easy. Well, but that was the pain that I went through that allowed me to really reflect on myself, the intentional millionaire.
Yeah. Hey, that is so dope, man, because you know how they say this red pill rage that men get?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's usually the root of it. And the way that I've been looking at this thing is, if you could just like take that energy and focus it somewhere else, you could get so much done. And it sounds like before you allowed it to get to some kind of red pill rage where you just went off into a tirade and off into the other end, you said, you know what, I'm going to use this to fuel me to find my purpose and to get where you are today. And I think that most men go through something similar to that. And if they could just wheel it to the right place, man, it's like an ultimate fuel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that allowed me. So that was really allowed me to kind of really start putting the pieces together in my head for me.
Yeah.
Because when that happened, I was young. I didn't have anything. I was like, she used to joke me and say I was broke, busted, and disgusted, which was true.
Wow. Yeah.
But it was all in love, because I knew that. But that's why I decided to go to school, because I knew I wanted some type of different outcome. So I knew I had to do something different.
Yeah.
But with that being said, that really was the setting stage for me. So now, fast forward that back to your question. In your singleness, I think it's important to be single. I say because when a person is single, that singleness should really be the person understanding and reflecting on themselves.
Yes. Yeah.
It shouldn't be about, because here's the thing, even if you take a woman that want kids, a lot of women that you get on these different platforms, ask them what do they do now. Well, they got to get in their singleness and really reflect on them and figure out all the shortcomings that they have.
Yeah.
How do they put the work in to fix it?
Yes.
And it's for men,
agree.
for the men, like you say, in the red pill rage, the men that feel like they not really where they want to be, you got to sit back and look in the mirror and say, you know what? I need to stay single until I figure out me.
Yes.
Or at least get some handle of yourself.
Yeah.
Because during the time, I didn't stay single the entire time. But I stayed single enough to reflect on me and get myself to where I at least know some things that I'm going to be working towards.
Yeah.
And then I got into another relationship.
Yeah.
You kind of see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then from there, it just continued to grow, because when I got in the next relationship after that, one of the things I realized then at that point was, okay, I'm with somebody else. But now I had some, you could say like anything, you got some reserves about the next person you with, because you still using some of this stuff from the last situation.
Yeah.
I'm just going to call it what it is. I mean, I was reserved about the newest person, but it was a different dynamic because she had a son at the time.
Yeah.
And he was a young son.
Yeah.
I was young. She was young. She had a young son. But it was kind of a little bit of reservations there just based off of the previous situation. But what that allowed me to identify, that I still had internal healing.
Yeah. You still needed to grow some more. Yeah.
See, so that was all the things. But the good thing was at that point, because I learned to be more verbal.
Yep.
See, you could think of it as, so my dad was very direct. my mom was very submissive. My mom was very quiet. My mom was kumbaya. She don't want no arguing. She like peace. She was just a good, genuine mom.
Yeah.
But I was kind of quiet because I was an introvert.
Yeah.
Okay, I had a situation happen with the girl that I had just graduated from high school with. Okay. And I now realized that happened, and now I was hurt emotionally. Okay. But I had to identify me. And then that's when I did realize that you have to be direct and tell these women exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And then so that unlocked indirectly, how what I saw my dad doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you see what I'm saying? So now I'm kind of putting all the pieces together. But doing my singleness, it took for me to really get that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny that you said. I was listening to High Value Shan earlier today, and he listed the 6 things that a man over 40 must have. And the first one was that he must be decisive. He must not be, he said, men are decisive. Men masculine as decisive and not indecisive. And so the fact that, you realize I gotta be decisive. I gotta let people know what I want. I gotta make the decision. I can't, beat around the bush or think about it, nothing like that. That's dope, because that's what you needed to get from that. And you said that you realized that because you had got into a relationship and it didn't go the way that you wanted it to. I always use this right here. I say that life is Mr. Miyagi. And it's kind of like with Danielson, you know what I'm saying? How he was learning the whole time, like painting the fence, you know what I'm saying? Waxing the car. And, Mr. Miyagi, he told him, I'm tired of this. I don't want to, I'm done. And then Mr. Miyagi punched, and said that he got it, and it's like, dang, I know it's here. And so this is what life is doing to us all the time. You come to this hurdle, and next thing you know a new move. You know what I mean? And so it took you to get into that relationship to actually even know. A lot of times we speak and say, I wouldn't do this, I wouldn't do that, but you don't even know, because you never been in that position. You know what I'm saying? But so yeah, man, that's awesome, man. I don't know. Did you have some more to add to that?
No, I just think that that's why it's important we do operate in our singleness, because operating our singleness should be self-reflection and become self-aware to its maximum potential.
Yeah.
Because I know now I know 100% of myself more than anything. Because I know what I like, what I don't like. I know that before then I was very, very, very patient and all this kumbaya, and I realized, take up your mama energy. Man, let's get this done. And if we ain't doing it, all right, let's move on.
so you was taking up your mama energy. You had your mama energy on her.
Kumbaya, cool. Oh, it's okay. No, it ain't okay. You just you said you're gonna do this. You ain't doing it. Man or woman, it don't matter.
Yeah.
Business is not business. It don't matter. If you're gonna say you're gonna do it, do it.
Yeah.
Be a man of your word.
Yes. Yeah.
Do a woman of your word.
Yeah. People get mad at you when you hold them to that standard, though. You know that.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure you know that.
Thing, though. But I know that. But here's what I learned. See, and this is what I learned over time. I have people that rock with me because they appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because the real people that really genuinely want better, gonna do better, appreciate better, they love that, because how can you help them if you're not giving them something that they may be short in?
Right.
But somebody done it with me, because now that I have mentors, that's what my mentors do for me.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So you just said something.
Again, I say this, and because again, I look at it as God don't create no junk. Yeah. And everybody that you walk in, your path in life is he answered through prayers, miracles, and money.
Yeah.
He normally don't do miracles because then when he got to do miracles, sometimes that means that maybe we not trusting the word.
Yeah.
However, he normally do it through people and money, and most of the time it's people. But I look at prayer as you don't pray, you pray for an answer to a prayer, clear, crisp, and concise. But he normally send people in your life to answer the prayer. But if your mind not open, you're going to miss it.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's kind of what those are the little rules that I just picked up on, and I try to stick to that. Was I perfect? No. But I always had a foundation to fall back on. Like even for me, like I told you, I always read. Well, I know when things don't go right, I know that I ain't been reading a lot. Because reading is like lifting a dumbbell in the gym. You continually to exercise, and I like to say make that brain pump.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah.
And I think it works the same for other people. They may have different areas, may not be reading. It may be something else, but you always have to be doing something to learn. But that's why singleness is so important, because in your singleness, you should be finding the do's and don'ts for yourself. You should be determining what you like, what you don't like. You should be determining in your singleness, how can I do this to get this type of outcome? What type of stuff makes me upset? What type of stuff makes me happy? What are my true hobbies? What are my God-given talents? All these different things you should be learning about self. That's why he mentioned singleness, because you can't do that when you have somebody else, because normally, and it's more for women than men, but normally a woman will stop what she's doing to transition over to what the man is doing.
Yeah.
So her singleness and her growth kind of stop right there.
Yeah.
And normally for a man, if he don't have a direction, his direction is everything that seems entertaining and fun, but it's nothing that really give him focus on something that he can get laser focus about and then go after. Because as men, we always have to be going after something, because going after something allows you to continue to hunt.
Bro, that's so on point. I thought about this one day. I said an idle mind, a man with an idle mind will lend himself to anything, but a man with a purpose will lend himself to his purpose.
Yep.
Think about that. Like, because I remember having an idle mind and didn't have a plan, didn't have any kind of a direction. I was everywhere. I was doing everything. But the minute that I got purpose, I got focus on that thing. And I'm so wired like that. Whenever I got a goal in my mind, whenever I got something that I want, I'm just like fanatic about it. You know what I'm saying? And so it really hit me hard. Like, man, a man needs to have purpose. It's period. And so when you see those guys that I talked about earlier, that's still drinking 40s in a yard, 10 years down the line, they never had a purpose. They've only been like, this has become their purpose.
Yep.
And that right there takes you all different kind of directions. It takes you to drugs, all different kind of addictions and stuff like that. And so, real quick, you said something, and I want you to just touch on this really quick. How important is it to have mentors?
Mentors is absolutely important, because we can only rise to a certain level, and the mentors allow us to go push us over the threshold, or give us that insight that allow us to go over the threshold. Or they provide us another avenue to start a threshold. Mentors is just so important. I'd say if you don't have a mentor, then you need to absolutely get one ASAP, because how do you keep yourself in check when you get out of check?
Yeah. Right. You know, have you heard of the law of the lid?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
John C. Maxwell?
Yes, sir.
And so organization or anything can't go higher than that lid, right? and just imagining you trying to go higher than yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like you keep going nowhere. Like it's hitting this every time. But so what happens with a mentor or a coach or somebody else, you know what I'm saying, that looks at things a little different than you and have achieved more than you, they can say, all they gotta do is give you direction. All they gotta do is say this is what I see, this is what I see, and it just raises your lid.
Yeah.
You know, it's so like everything that you've been saying, I mean, is this the basic fundamentals of any successful person, pretty much. You know, you're not reinventing the wheel or nothing like that. These things of successful people, they say success leave clues. I mean, they're right there, and you can go and pick up the clues and change your life. And so, what would you give? Like, how would you? Okay, say for instance, there's somebody that's 30 years old or even 40 years old. You know, and they're in a place where they want to make some changes because they're feeling inspired, you know what I mean, by your story. What would you do? What would you tell them to do to get themselves together and get out of the place that they're in?
The first thing I would tell them to do is cut off all people that doesn't meet their goal. So one, I would tell them to sit down and write out what exactly do they want. Okay. And when I say what they want, I would say from 3 major areas. Spiritually, if they a believer, if they're a non-believer, then that doesn't apply to them.
Okay.
Financially, what do you want? Health-wise, what do you want?
Yep.
And what mental state would you like to be in those things?
Yeah. All important pieces.
Okay. And then after they identified those important pieces, then the next thing I would do is I would tell them to list the top 10 people that they talk to the most.
For
most people, it's not going to be 10.
Yeah.
But I would say the top 10.
Yeah.
And then when they say, oh, it's not 10, it's only 4. And I said, out of those 4, do any of them meet any of one of these things that you said that you wanted? And if they say no, then I say, well, you need to now start to decrease and reduce time communicating with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if that includes your parents, you need to lessen time communicating with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because then I will go back to your example. This is the lid.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I would say this, it's kind of like, let's just say if you was 4'11" and you want to get something off a shelf that's 6 feet, you have to get a ladder or some additional to help you lift yourself up to be able to get the item off the shelf.
Yeah.
Well, in this case, the shelf is set by all the closest 5 people that you talk to.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
So now we gotta get the ladder out to go get the stuff off the shelf. So that getting the ladder out means then now I gotta shift this group over, and now I need to start a new group. And that new group needs to be either a book, an audio CD, a video.
Yeah.
And you need to do the things you need to do a book, or audio CD, or videos around the things that you just wrote down, said that you wanted.
Yes.
That's what I would tell them they need to do. And and the reason why I throw the friends in there, because I want them to understand that it has nothing to do about them being a good or bad person. It has something to do with, because you want something and they can't give you that. So you got to go outside of them to get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you've been doing it with them and you've been talking with them and you haven't got there yet. So what made you think it's going to change?
It's going to change overnight, right? Hey, man, that is so powerful. And I'm so happy you said that. A little shameless plug in the book that I'm writing right now. One of the things that I talked about is that when I was on my journey, and I'm still on my journey, but when I first started my journey to lose all of the weight, I had to start with my surroundings, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that I saw is, first of all, I put myself out there for accountability. That's why I started my YouTube page. But also, I needed to actually surround myself with people that were in line with what I wanted, where I wanted to be. And in that, I found a guy named Bricks Fitness, Possible Pat, and a dude named Obese the Beast. Now, I surrounded myself with them through the internet. That's the great thing about the internet, because you don't have to have a mentor that communicates with you every single day either.
Mm-hmm.
You can find mentors online. You can find programs and stuff like that. If you don't got nobody that you could touch, you could still find these people, and you could just model yourself, because the more that you watch these things, the more you start to think like this. You start to hear certain things. And this, when you're in a shower, when you're driving, different ideas come to your mind. You see, like, some of the, just about everything that I've said, like if I mention a book or something like that, he's already read it. And so when he hears something that I say, he probably like, dang, yep, I know that. You know what I'm saying? But because we've been surrounding ourselves with certain kind of people. And so when I see a brother like this, I'm like, man, I need to surround. I need some of his energy. I need to connect with him in some kind of way. And that's the way that we have to be. And so I'm so happy that you said that, because that right there is just perfect, man. It's perfect. And we're not gonna keep going on with this. But one of the things I'm hoping, and I'm asking you this. Are you going to do a video explaining the Roth process a little bit more
Yes.
on your channel?
Yes. So the first couple of videos I put up is kind of just to get people introduced to the concept, introduced to the terminology. And then I'm gonna come back and actually do some walkthroughs. Matter of fact, I'm gonna probably open up just to do another Roth. I'm gonna probably open up a Roth sometime in the next month or so. I'm gonna open up a Roth, because what I can do is that most people I haven't talked about yet is, so I can open up a Roth right now today, and I can do one for the current year, which is 2021. But then I can open one up the same day and do one for the new year for 2022.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was going to actually do a walkthrough and just show people exactly how to do it. Kind of get some insight on the actual funds that you should put inside of it.
Yeah.
I'm going to actually do some interactive stuff, because one of the things that I want to do is that's why I'm going to start my live streams, is because I want to get the engagement of the audience to tell me what would they like to see, so I can build a content around what people really want.
People want to see. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, that's great, because I'm not going to ask you to break that down, but I definitely feel like that's something that people need to know. And with that, why don't you go ahead and give them your all of the information that you want them to know about you, because I definitely want everybody to go subscribe to his channels and stuff like that, because the brother is just now putting up his channel, and I mean, the content is already off the hook, and I'm just excited for what's to come. So can you give them your social media stuff?
Yes. You can find me on YouTube under the Intentional Millionaire. I come up, and what I do is on the Intentional Millionaire is a channel where we coach, teach, and mentor men to build millionaire portfolio. And what we're looking to start is the AIM movement. And basically what that means is another intentional movement, because we know that economically we have to eventually get our resources in order, so that way we can have a more powerful impact in the community. And that's what I'm willing to do. The great thing is I take the time to do all the research. I like to bring everything to the forefront. And the only thing I look for is we teach each other so we can teach someone else, so we can have a community of millionaires. And millionaire is not an end all be all, but it gets you in the game.
Yeah. Well, that's dope. Well, looks, I've had a blast, man. This has been really, really good. Make sure y'all go and visit my man, the Intentional Millionaire. Like I said, I mean, this is the man of character and just willing to help. You know what I mean? Reach out to him too. But listen, before we leave, real quick, this is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be asking everybody that come on the show. This is a part of something that I used to call Man Talk Monday. We used to have these talks on social media, but now I'm not calling them Man Talk Monday now, but we're going to let this fill in. So this is going to be dropping on Monday. But before you go, what is it something that you pulled out or something that you liked about the show when you first saw Fat, Broke and Single?
Well, I like that it's authentic, one. Also, what I like about Fat, Broke and Single is the fact that you speaking about real life experience. One, and then two, you really can, that applies for everything. I don't look at it as just the title. See, because you could be, so fat don't necessarily mean just physical. Fat could mean that you're deluded in your mind. Fat could mean that you carry extra baggage from a previous relationship. Fat could mean that, you got unresolved relationships that needs to be resolved. Broke is not actual financial. Broke is basically means, I think for everyone, nobody's actually broke. They just haven't awakened their resource inside of them yet. Which is, there is something inside of them that hasn't been awoken yet. So I don't look at broke as just a monetary thing. I look at it more as the individual hasn't unlocked their internal resource. Okay. And then single, I think single just means it's not a bad thing. I think single just means that you haven't really took the time to become aware of you. So when I hear that title, I think is a
all encompassing.
It encompasses everything that we do in life. The title is deeper than the title. So that's kind of how I look at it when I saw it. And that's what was great to me, because I consider life is layers. And because they're layers, I just think a person has to know what layer they're on and what layer they're going to. And I think Fat, Broke and Single speaks to all the layers. So that's why I really like what you're doing over here, Big Guy Journey.
Well, look, bro, I appreciate that. You broke that down really, really well. And man, I just appreciate you coming by. I look forward to furthering our conversations and further collaborating. I appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule just to come and rock with us. And with that, you've actually sat through another episode of Fat, Broke and Single. I am your host, Big Guy Journey. Look out for the next episode and look out for my guy, Intentional Millionaire. All right, take care, take charge, and God bless.